So we get to finally talk about the Xbox Series X and see how this particular console holds up in 2025. Now, number one, the main thing I can definitely tell you is that without a doubt, buying something like an Xbox Series X is still completely worth buying for the most part. These are still very good consoles. They have a bunch of capability and a bunch of features. So you're not really going to feel like you're missing out on too much if you're going through and buying this type of console, because this is still the latest generation. Now, in my personal opinion, I think these consoles are still a little bit overpriced depending on where you're buying them from. And, now they're not really going to be like, you're not going to have to go through and deal with like resellers for the most part or anything like that. Like you're still going to be getting like a really good experience from this type of console, which is always really nice to have. But I will tell you, the way Microsoft is kind of going now, it seems like they're going away from like even trying to buy a console, and they're really focusing in on their Xbox, like their cloud gaming area. So that's kind of what it seems like. But without a doubt, I think an Xbox Series X is still very good. These things are so powerful, and I'm so excited to talk about them. So if you want to get your hands on the Xbox Series X, I'll leave some links down in the description where you can go and get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of this particular console. Now, it's been about 5 years since this console came out. There's been a couple of model changes for the most part, but there's been some new skins and stuff. But for the most part, this console is still basically the same as when it first came out. Obviously, we've gotten a lot more games, we've gotten a lot more updates and upgrades. And that's actually a really nice thing going on here. Now, on the exterior, you can see that on the front side, you're basically getting your disk drive and an eject button. Now, the Xbox button on the front is basically the power button, and that disk drive in and of itself was such a turning point because it made everyone realize that, wow, a lot of these manufacturers are wanting these disk drives to go away because they made the digital version of the PlayStation 5, they made the disc one. Now with the PlayStation 5 Slim, they made that digital disc hybrid, whatever. This one was also the same way because the Series S has that no disc model. This one has that disc. So you are paying a premium for that, and that is a very big thing, right? I wanted to really hit on that because when you're buying the Xbox Series X, you are getting that type of capability there. So that right there is a very big thing to keep in mind. Now, on the other side, the top and the bottom, not much going else except for the fans and stuff. On the back side, though, this is where things are interesting. So this is where we end up getting our 2 USB ports. So we end up getting 2 USB ports on the side, which is nice to have, right? Everyone loves that. On the other side, you're also on the front side, you're getting a USB port, if I forgot to mention that. But back on the back, you're basically getting your Ethernet port, you're getting your memory expansion port, your HDMI port, and your AC adapter. So you do have a lot of capability there too, right? There's not really too much, else to kind of mess around here. It's pretty much straightforward. Pretty much the same port selection as the Xbox Series S. What was interesting though, and I keep mentioning this, it's probably old news now, but with the Xbox One X and the One S, and even the One, you had 2 HDMI ports, which allowed you to kind of have like HDMI pass-through. I really kind of miss that. I guess not a lot of people use that, but I thought that was a really cool feature and a really cool novelty. And I really do wish the next generations actually ended up giving us that type of capability too. Now, on top of those things, some other big things to keep in mind here with the Xbox Series S was basically the feature set behind it. Now, what Microsoft told us, and what it's basically true, is that you're getting true 4K gaming. So you do get, all your gaming that you want to do with it. And it does give us that type of capability. It also gave us 120 hertz as well. So you could game up to 120 hertz, frames per second, which was really, really cool. You had 8K high dynamic range, which was awesome. Then the Xbox Velocity architecture was just kind of a bragging point. But that was something that was really cool that went on with the Xbox Series X. So that in and of itself was really cool. Another very cool thing was that you did have expandable storage built right in. So you could go through, and it was actually highlighted to be a big feature of this particular, console. So a lot of consoles, every gaming console mostly has expandable storage built in, but this thing had it right built into the box. And I thought that was a really cool thing for them to really highlight that at that time. Now, on top of that, another thing was the fact that after booting this console up and actually after using it for a little bit and playing some games here and there, a really big advantage for the Xbox Series X was the fact that it was so backwards compatible. You could play thousands and thousands of Xbox One games Xbox 360 games, and the original Xbox games as well. That right there was such a cool thing to basically have, and being able to go through and pick up a device that's going to be giving you that type of capability, I thought was a really nice thing to have, because there's not a lot of consoles that are backwards compatible. If you remember last couple generations ago, maybe it wasn't the most, but now we do end up getting that type of capability. And I do think, once again, in and of itself, that is a really cool thing to basically have. And if I'm going to go through and pick up a device, I love being able to go through and buy a console that's going to allow me to play all of my, older games, but also allow me to play my older games within that disk drive. So if you have those physical games, which is something I love doing, this gaming console has that disk drive, and it also allows you to have it, be backwards compatible, which that is in and of itself another really nice thing to kind of keep in mind there as well. So if you are going to go through and pick up a device, that right there in and of itself is another really cool thing to basically think about as well. Now, on top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind here too with this type of gaming console was that, you could get Game Pass, if you want to subscribe to that, which probably is what Microsoft's kind of leaning towards, you have that type of capability too. However, this is kind of the situation that we're in right now, because everything is not perfect. One of the biggest problems that we're probably going to be experiencing with the Xbox is just entirely, there's not as many exclusive games within this console as there used to be. There are now more and more games that, Microsoft has made that are now being kind of ported over to both PlayStation and Nintendo, and the exclusive games that, Xbox has, they may not even be as many as exclusive games as like PlayStation or Nintendo. Nintendo is pretty much number one here, but that is one thing you might be experiencing. And the fact that you're basically going through and getting something like a, if you're going to go through and, pick up another console, Activision, the fact that Microsoft just bought them, and the fact that they said that they're still going to be releasing Activision games for the next several years means that for this console, there's probably going to be less exclusive games going on for this console than there will be for the next particular console. So who knows what's going to happen there, but for the most part, that is one thing you might be experiencing. On top of that, some people are stating, and I've experienced this too, like it's a pretty big design, like it's pretty bulky. So, and it may not be the best looking thing to kind of look at. So that right there could be an issue for some people. Like if you wanted to go through and buy some sort of like a newer console, you might be wanting to buy a console that's going to be giving you a little bit more capability and just like a little bit more of a portable design. Because this console is so bulky, you might not be liking that on this particular device. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but that is one thing you might be experiencing from that side as well. So overall, when I go ahead and take a look at the Xbox Series X in 2025, the biggest thing I can definitely tell you is that I'm a fan of this console, right? I think, Microsoft did a really good job with this device when it first came out, and I think it still has a lot of capability, right? It's still great. Is it perfect? Almost. Like it is almost like a perfect console. There's obviously some things that they could do better, but if you're going to go through and pick up a device, I think this is like a pretty solid option. Again, it really isn't perfect, and there could be some better ways they can make some improvements here, but I do think if you are in the market and you're going to go through and pick up some devices, this is a pretty solid option. But if you want to save some money, you can always go through and buy something like an Xbox, Series S. That one is just going to be a little bit cheaper, but you can also go through and buy that type of console and still get a really good type of device when it comes down to that side as well. And I do think that in and of itself is another really big asset. Like if you're going to go through and buy a device, I think that one is pretty solid when it comes down to it as well. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.